The Juneteenth event held at the East Point Library was a combination about history, curated books, art, some crafts, some community, and a little dancing. The acronym really was RED, and we were inspired by the color red, which is one of the flag colors for Juneteenth. I use RED as a way to have an acronym for resilience, education, and dancing. Some things will be on paper, and this was one of those situations where that particular watershed moment for our country was on paper, but not in practice. And for many different reasons, there was a delay in the Juneteenth celebration forward to come, mostly because the enslaved people of Galveston were not aware that they were free due to the Emancipation Proclamation. And I think that it's our duty to talk about history in its many realms and thoughts, because people just don't know if they just don't know. And this particular event was a way to use the arts, use the books to encounter history in a different form and fashion. I have to say, as a creative and as an artistic person, I find that art creates an opportunity for people to engage in tough conversations or situations, or just a way to even challenge their own creativity. We had materials that you could tear, just go ahead, there's no judgment, you don't have to do anything within the lines. And so we had a collection of a range of reds. We had yarn, we had beads and little gems, and it was just an amazing array. So we had very simple art pieces that were on a 3x5 to those that were built into three-dimensional pieces using some of what was on the table. And it was just beautiful, because once we finished up, we were also able to share these presentations and let people see how they were able to represent red in terms of that inspiration, again, going back to those colors. Those were complements to the Juneteenth effort for Pan-Africanism, the flag, the red, black, green, and gold. But we were really trying to stay with the red that was a common color between the American flag, the Juneteenth flag, and the Pan-African flag. So the idea of using art and using art up front was really important. It really would decrease the resistance, if you will, about those who said, oh, I can't do art, or I can't do this. And it also provided an opportunity to build community. And that was just a fabulous moment to hear them talking and getting to know one another. And that was a perfect segue for coming into yet another space that was a little more intentionally designed as well, to give full attention to the presentation while still sitting next to, because you now have a friend that you could bring into the room, but to ready yourself for the information that we were to go ahead and share. So for instance, pulling up a video clip on Opal Lee, the grandmother of Juneteenth, was just a critical moment. The room was absolutely silent because so many did not know her journey. They did not know that this woman walked miles and miles and miles. This woman walked eventually all the way to Washington, D.C. to make sure that she was standing and bringing information for the celebration of Juneteenth to become into law. And it now is on June 17th, 2021, it actually became a federal holiday in the United States of America, and how important that was. And we were also able, in this particular space where it was more curated for the works that we could look at, the books, hearing more information and hearing even some of the stories from the audience. I was astounded that on a rainy night in Georgia, that there were people who traveled from as far as Conyers, Georgia, to come to this event. There was the pull of what could be exciting, or the anticipation about learning more about the historical aspects of Juneteenth, as well as I'm going to go because this is a gathering. This is a gathering of people, whether or not they're like-minded or not, but this is an opportunity to learn more from those who I sit next to, those who I get a chance to dance with, and understanding that there is no judgment when you create a safe space. And that's what I applaud this library for doing, but also there is so much intentionality in the work that I do as this cultural broker to ensure that spaces are safe and that everyone feels welcomed, and that we don't judge if you have no artistic talent, and we certainly don't judge if you cannot dance. I watch these young kids take over and say, I know how to do that. And I also watched some seniors grab their fans, which is a part of the dance, and say, well, I know how to do it too. And so to be able to watch this intergenerational community dancing, it was just a phenomenal. I could not have asked for a better way to end the program. When the patrons first came into the art space, they had an opportunity to write out what red is or what freedom is. And I told them just a word or a phrase. And what's an important notion is that as a writer, I'm drawn to doing community poems. And so I stepped away at some point during the workshop, and I took the information that the patrons had given, and I was able to compile a community or collective poem, and then I had an opportunity to read it. And it's so amazing to watch the faces when they know that that's their part, and to be able to give snaps on, yes, I did that part, and I'm now part of this collective that will be out in the world forever.